what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the second ever episode of Vinecast. I'm your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and joining me, there's two people that had the great pleasure of being at home in the Grand Old Lady for their inaugural game of the Richmond Ivy, which they won 1-0 against the Virginia Marauders, which I'm not gonna lie is a dope name. I do like Virginia Marauders. That is a good name. Yeah, Matt, Kate, how was it? Did it live up to all the hype that we thought it would and more?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say the Richmond community definitely showed out with an excitement we knew. I mean, just based on how tickets were selling and what we were hearing from the front office in terms of how many like season ticket members, Founders Club memberships they'd sold, like how tickets were selling, that it was going to be a big crowd. But it was definitely exciting to see people treat it also like a soccer game and not necessarily just like a big day out. It definitely had, it wasn't just like necessarily just have a novelty feel to it. Like, oh, here's something new to go to, but it felt like people are actually there to like support a team, watch a soccer game, and specifically to watch women's soccer. There were a ton of people with t-shirts that said everyone watches women's sports. So pretty cool. It definitely felt like a moment for people to say there should be more opportunities to watch women's sports in the city. The owner of the Sports Bra, if you're listening, want to bring a franchise to Richmond, Virginia. I think that it would be very successful. I'm going to put that call out. Yeah, I think that what was the not unexpected, but nice to have confirmed that if people were there to actually watch a women's soccer game, not just like experience some like novelty attraction in the city.
Were there? I know there were like a lot of green shirts, but did you see any Kickers jerseys out there, or was it like no? It's like all Ivies gear.
I mean, literally wearing one because we were green 2 years ago, and hadn't picked up my gear yet, so it fit pretty well.
There you go. That's what
little corporate synergy there. No, you saw some other stuff like that, but if you were there, you saw as soon as you walked into that gate that there was a merch line that I think I wouldn't have had the patience to wait in. I'm glad everybody else did because that thing was long. Which
that's what I heard. It was pretty long.
Good, but I got a soccer game to watch. I'll pick that up online.
Well, yeah, and the way how the Kickers put it was a complete sellout. So congratulations to them and the front office staff for selling that many tickets. 6,000 is the number that they reported for the sellout. Before we talk about the game itself, I want to ask you guys this question. Like, obviously this is the first game, but is there a different atmosphere or feel to these games versus Kickers games, like in the stands?
One of the things I love is that when a lot of little girls at an event, they love screaming, and they love screaming at the absolute top of their voice. And so one of my favorite things is just hearing, because I go to a lot of women's soccer games in general, like spirit games, like when I have the opportunity. And there is like a octave difference in the crowd when the crowd cheers when you have critical mass of like girls under 14 than at other sporting events. So I think that's one of the things that, just something as in attending a lot of women's sports events in my life that I notice and is I love hearing little girls like unabashedly like yell and scream and get involved, because obviously like girlhood and femininity doesn't necessarily always encourage that in other contexts. So to me, that's like one of the best sounds in the world, is hearing just thousands of little girls like scream their heart content over something that they like feel really passionate about. So to me, hearing that difference is always a sign of a great crowd. I love hearing it, like even at like women's national team games, like the American Outlaws section, even sometimes when you hear little girls like realize that they can like sing and chant and scream at a soccer game. It's really, really cool to hear. So that's my favorite thing about attending women's sports, is just the octave difference in the screams, because little girls love to scream and they're really good at it, and they're really good at making an atmosphere.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I think it's one game, so it's hard to say, but I think there's a really positive aura around the stadium. I don't like know how to define it really, but it's definitely a different feel than kickers games, even good seasons, kickers games. It was just kind of a different vibe, to everything. A lot of positivity, upbeat, feel. It could be the new factor. Could be a sustainable thing like game one. So we'll see, what it looks like into game two, game three. How the crowds held up, but it's hard to say it was anything but a really enjoyable, fun time there. Even with a 10-minute downpour, at the start of the second half, like people didn't leave.
Yeah.
Like maybe a few people did. Like you could see them, a little trickle of cars out on the street behind whichever goal that is. But I was stunned by how many people stuck it out, and they were rewarded both by good second half and the rain stopping like 10 minutes later.
Yeah, there you go. That's the thing. Don't leave early because rain games at City Stadium are always the best. Kate, I'll toss it over to you, tactics wise, because for those who didn't know, I wasn't at the game because I was at VCU's graduation, having a jolly good time. Also saw a friend of the podcast. God, now her name escapes me. She's the professor at VCU in school education, and now her name just escaped me, and she's going to bring up. Yes, there we go. Caitlin, I saw her at graduation because
Funny, I saw her at the game.
Yeah. So I went out afterwards to go drink because my sister-in-law graduated from VCU. Shouts out to Otto. But Caitlin was one of her professors and whatnot. And I saw Caitlin walking across stage with like the William Murray robe on. I'm pretty sure underneath it, I think she had like an Ivy jersey or something underneath it. I swear she did. But yeah, that was besides the point. That's why I won the game. But for those who are wondering, yes, I know the league sent out the. I don't even think it's considered NBC. There's a way how to watch it, stream it, but it wasn't working. If you go to richmondivy.com, I think all the home games are going to be streamed there. I don't know about away games, but if you're looking for a way how to watch the home games and you can't be there in person, go to Richmond Ivy on YouTube. It's free. Just subscribe and you can watch the games. And I think they got notifications. Like you can notify yourself when the next game is. But I'm going to pass it over to Kate because you were in person covering this game to talk more about it than I can. So, Kate, I'm handing it over to you, homie.
Thanks. It was a whole lot of fun. I think starting with the roster, we didn't necessarily get all of our questions from the preseason pod answered because we were told that I think it's 5 players were not able to be there for the first game of finals because these are all college students. So we were missing a few, most notably Jill Flamia. So
nobody got a final on a Saturday night. Come on.
This is just what I was told, okay? But they weren't here due to school obligations. We were also told after the game by Kimmy that these players will definitely enhance the current roster. So as fun and exciting as the team was, the players who will be brought in should be expected. We should see several of them into the starting 11. And some players playing out of position because of personnel limitations. Kimmy also said after the game, so this game will not necessarily be representative of maybe her choice starting 11 in their preferred positions, but she did say to expect rotation. So I'm sure we'll see many iterations of the squad, but it was very cool to see the starting 11. We did see what we assume is the first choice goalkeeper in Lauren Hargrove, as well as a back 3 to start at least of Ava Pustover, Lindsay Munyak, and Alexis Pierce from the left. Then there was a midfield that very fluid. Don't necessarily know how they specifically settled in because they were moving around a lot. A lot were making sort of progressive runs, bringing the ball forward or getting involved in the attack of Sarah Flamia, Hannah Heaton, Brianna Bem, and Kylie Gerald. So we did see the younger sister of Jill, who is, again, a senior in high school. So pretty impressive. And then Cam Simmons started on the right wing with Taylor Berry in the center and Kanatsuhita on the left wing. So not necessarily everyone in their preferred positions there, but I don't think I didn't think anyone looked uncomfortable, although the first half was a little bit nervy. I would say it was a little bit more back and forth. Matt, what were your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, I think the first half, it was very obvious to me very quickly that Ivy just had superior talent pretty much everywhere on the field, over Marauders. Like they, you know, it looked like a better organization on the field. Just even the way that they, set up, even just the way the uniforms, presented, themselves. Ivy looking, very professional, in their approach. Marauders looking like a amateur team, in which they are. So no shade meant on, that level, but even just the way they warmed up, looked like something that you'd see at a Sunday league, sort of setup, and it showed. I thought throughout the first half, like you look at the possession stats, like so heavily tilted, towards Ivy, but something wasn't clicking. Like there was a lot of trying to play down the wings. Maybe players weren't used to fully knowing where everybody wanted to be, and just maybe not selfish enough. Maybe not taking those looks yourself at goal, because their keeper, who in the second half ended up showing quite well, didn't have a lot to do in the first half at all, despite the possession, and despite the Marauders not offering too much. They probably had the better top chance or two of the whole half, and it wasn't because they were better. It's just because they took a rip and made Hargrave have to make one good save.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Elliot, do you notice anything from your sort of tactical view?
Yeah, my view is a little different. Before I start off, I just want to say the goalkeeper jersey, I need them to sell that ASAP. Like that chain is it's great. And also, second point, maybe I'm in the output of this. I would love to see this jersey with like orange socks. Just my thing. I would like to see that. So what I really saw was we finally saw a back three, but it wasn't the kickers, which is what I've been clamoring for, and it was effective. I really like how strong Sarah was in the midfield. Like, I think someone made the comment on X about how she kind of almost quote unquote looked like Pirlo, and she just looked so control of the game. Like, I think when I looked at the age of this roster, like no one is born before 2001. So it's still relatively young. Like these are mostly college girls, and Virginia Marauders had, I think, someone on the roster that was like 97, right? So a little bit more veteran roster there from Virginia Marauders, but the midfield itself looks so composed. Like they look like they really want to control the game. I think the part, and Matt, you brought this up before, like with the lack of preseason in this team, I think the attack is going to take a game or two to gel. You could tell that in the first half. Like they would get the ball into the midfield or get the ball back, and they would play it out to the attack, and you could just see it like moves were coming together, but it was kind of break down, right? They weren't putting the goalkeeper under pressure like how we would initially thought it would be. But I think like as the more this team plays together, that attack will be there. Also, another thing, Lauren in goal, she is aggressive off her line. Like there was one point, I think there was a ball, it was like a 50-50 ball coming towards her goal, and she, without hesitation, just was like, I'm going for it. Like, did not care if she was going to get chipped, whatever. She was like, I am going for this. I am getting this ball first. So, with that said, like, also, you could tell this crowd knows who Cameron Simmons is. Everyone should know who she is. She's going to be the greatest Jamaican striker of all time after Bunny Shaw's retired. But every time she got on the ball, it was weird because it was like this consistent crowd noise. But every time she got on the ball, the crowd noise would kind of just go down. And it was weird because like everyone would just stand up to see what she was going to do. It was almost like it was. I lie to you not. It was like 2 or 3 moves she did where the crowd noise kind of just dipped for a second. it's not like pin drop quiet, but it's kind of like that quiet of like, how can I put it? Like when LeBron gets the ball, yeah, like when LeBron gets the ball on the wing, you're like, all right, what he gonna do, right? And it was kind of just like that because it's like, oh, like.
Well, interesting word choice there. Like, what did y'all think about her on the wing? Because I was surprised by that at first. Like, I don't know all her game inside and out, but
yeah,
I like the idea. I like the idea of it, but I'm not sure if that's her best position.
I think that was they had to, like, they wanted her on the field, and in order to figure out who to get their best available forwards on the field, they had to put her on the wing. I mean, I said she would take that ball into the box every time. Like, she was so unafraid to take on her defender, which was so much fun because she was right in front of section O. So we got to just see her dribble like every 5 minutes. It was just her like taking a player on, taking it to the corner. Like, it's so refreshing, I think, to just see a player so confident in her own dribbling. Obviously she lost the ball several times. It didn't necessarily, the crossing, it wasn't getting on anyone's head pretty much. I think zero, maybe one time there was like the center forward connected, Taylor Berry did. So there wasn't, but the crosses they were into a good position. They were dangerous. And it was just really cool to see her just like so confidently sort of take players on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing, too, was that almost, scared, the stadium half to death. Whatever, probably like 30th minute or so. She just falls to the ground, herself walks over to the sideline and getting like, looked like full hamstring massage for, 5 to 10 minutes straight. And even when she came back on, like those down in the stands, she had one sprint, down, and she looked by the end of that like she was barely moving better than me and some of us in the stands would. After that, like she was, I'm a little bit past my playing days and never anywhere near that good, but there's a noticeable limp. I was convinced that she wasn't coming back out for the second half, and clearly she did, and hopefully perfectly fine at this point.
Yeah, and hopefully a week and a half off before their next game will help. Hopefully that's enough time to handle whatever tweak that was, and it's nothing serious.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting, just the sort of last thing on the first half is a lot of it was coming down the wings. Especially since we had said no player was like listed as a winger, an outside back at all. And then almost everything was coming down the wings for the first half. I just thought that was interesting. I was sort of like, oh, like, I mean, I guess these players are comfortable on the wing, even though a lot of them are central players. Because of what information we had about the squad, I didn't expect it to be so consistently down the wings, but I guess there was a tactical change in the 35th minute, and I think it might have become a little more central after that. But yeah, there was a lot of crossing happening for.
Yeah, I liked what Matsuhisa was able to bring, coming down the left side, especially. I think she looked, quite strong, being able to get to the end line a lot more, and cut in. If I remember correctly, she's one of the players with experience at this level. Played for Indy 11, who I think they won the championship last year. So she, and I think the college game is a little bit different than the W League game, just in terms of playing style, familiarity, with teammates and opponents. So having somebody be able to come in and bring that experience, well, I shouldn't say leadership because I have no idea if what the dynamic is within the team there. But she brought I think a different style of left side play than what we were seeing on the right, whether that was Simmons or I can't remember who ended up over there more in the second half.
Kate, to answer your question, like why are we playing on the wing? I think it was down to really two things, like tactics wise. Like the 3-4-3 kind of lends itself to playing more out on the wings. You don't have too many numbers central. But then also like Virginia Marauders were kind of just like, yeah, y'all can have the wings. We're just gonna like make a little camp here in the middle and sit back as far as you can. It's hard to tell stats wise, but I want to ask you guys, like, what do you guys feel like the possession was in this game? Because to me, it felt like it was very heavily skewed to the Ivy. like large portions of this game.
I mean, I'd be stunned if it wasn't like 75-25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like Marauders were just like, if we could get out of here with a 0-0, we're fine with that. Like they were not trying to play. I shouldn't say play, but they weren't trying to extend themselves, as I put it like that.
I think
They
they
had a
know
lot
who
of
they
pace.
are.
Yeah. And the forwards were definitely looking to like get on the counterattack, especially the Ivy backline was playing pretty high. So there was the opportunity was likely there, you know, a well-timed through ball, get the forward sort of on the run, like to exploit that. I think at this level, obviously it just takes a lot of composure. It takes like to be able to like actually execute that. Like it's a great like tactical goal, but not necessarily always gonna like come off. But they had a few breaks. I would say that's exactly what they were. Is like the ball would they'd get the ball in the midfield and it would just be a couple passes and they try to like play it through, get one of their.
I mean, there were 2 or 3 times where they just went straight for the chip from close to midfield and never came remotely close to getting anywhere near the goal. But I think that tells a lot of the story of what the game plans were for each team. Ivy wanted to come out and really be able to put the pressure on. They did. Marauders were happy to sit back and try to steal one if at all possible, but if not possible, okay.
All right.
Yeah. And then I think the sort of natural continuation of that is the Ivy came out in the second half and didn't seem interested in entertain that anymore and sort of just settled in to pretty much maintaining possession. I can't remember. I mean, you were down in sectional back. Did the Marauders have any decent opportunities in the second half?
Nothing I would call decent. I think like Hargrove maybe meaningfully touched the ball 2 or 3 times at most. Like maybe there was one corner, but nothing that I would think of as threatening any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it didn't feel like anything that was like, oh, this is a carved out opportunity. Like at any point, it felt like Marauders, they were going for it. It felt like they would get the ball. It was just like, oh, we didn't work on this week.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Kimmy said in the post-game presser, and again, I said this before the podcast started to Elliot and Matt, but Kimmy, I wish everyone could come to Kimmy's post-game conference because she is like the smartest tactical speaker I've ever been lucky enough to talk to. Her answers were so in detail. Like, watch all the videos you can from the folks who were at the press conference, all the videos that we've posted to our Instagram, because hearing it directly from her, she is really articulate and breaks it down in a very digestible way and sort of covers like the whole game start to finish, all the choices and changes that she made. Really great to listen to. But she said the sort of the intangible we haven't talked about yet was the crowd, the fact that all of these players on both sides, this was probably actually excepting Kana, probably in last year's championship game for 11, that I think was over 4,500 or so. Excepting her last season, I don't think any of them have ever played in a crowd this big, and Cam at the World Cup. But obviously, well, it's also a little bit more impersonal because it's such a big crowd that this one you're like, everyone is 10 feet away from you and screaming directly at you.
Oh, yeah,
Kimmy said that like the team could not hear her like the entire first half, so she was so impressed with the tactical change that they made because she didn't think the players could hear a word that she was saying pretty much the entire game. And you could kind of see it. Their nerves were a little jangly. Like maybe their first touch wasn't quite as clean as she would hope. She said a lot that they didn't, their shots were off target. She was not happy with that. So the second half, I think they sort of adjusted to the fact that they were playing in front of such a large crowd. Obviously, I think there's still going to be a learning curve, but like the nerves were so high in that first half. Like, oh, if we score a goal, it's the first ever goal that we'll score, like for this club, like that sort of thing. That the second half, they sort of settled a bit and just sort of got the basics down a little more, really took it to the next gear in terms of possession and in terms of the pressure they were putting on. Because, I mean, I've never stood in front of a crowd that big, let alone had to play a soccer game. So that was sort of, I think, the biggest intangible for them to navigate. You can't like prepare for that until you're actually there in front of it. I would wonder if Cam had any advice, if Kana had advice, to the rest of their team, if they were able to provide leadership in that dimension and sort of like, here's what you might feel, or here's like some tactics I've used to like focus on the game. Maybe that's why Cam also looked so much better than everyone else, because she was like, this is child's play compared to the stadiums I've played in. So yeah, that's sort of one intangible that we hadn't really touched on yet, but that probably had a pretty big impact in that performance.
So I don't think we talked about the game, Caden, but as the second half was moving along, like did you at any point start to get a little bit of panic?
I did.
You can answer too, Elliot.
Huh?
You can answer too.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying like I did, and it was just because like we've said it a bunch of times, but if the Ivy was controlling this game, and we've seen it so many times before with our other favorite Richmond team, where what happened this weekend? Like they have stretches where they dominate, and then just unopportune luck will happen, and the other team will get a lead. Because let's just say, for the sake of argument, like Virginia Marauders scored, right? It would have been very hard to break down that team just because of how tight they were vertical and horizontally. Like it took, I hate to say it this way, but it took like a deflected goal on the goal line and the goalkeeper getting nutmeg for us to score, right? Which should never happen. I don't understand how goalkeeper getting nutmegged on our own line, but whatever. But yeah, I think with time and the more this team plays together, I think we'll see that attack gel a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely was nervous as the game started to go on and on and on, just because I didn't know if the goal was going to come, because the build-up just seemed like a little loose, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched most of the second half from the press box as well, so I went like down sort of closer to pitch level, and I would say like they were putting on a lot of pressure, but the chances didn't always feel super clear cut. And one of the things that we talked about in the preseason show was maybe this team, the players in this team in their college side, they aren't necessarily the primary goal scorer in their team. I think a couple players had like 1 or 2 5+ goal seasons so far in their career. And a lot of them were hovering, if they took a lot of shots, still hovering around a 50% shot on target rate. So clinicism is maybe not necessarily the biggest asset among the team, even though this is a team that's hopefully going to score a lot of goals. That's the game plan. So I think there's also a component of that the players themselves aren't necessarily like in their college teams bagging a goal every week, but it's coming more rarely. And I mean, maybe that's to me, the Brianna Bem as the goal scorer, we talked about her in the preseason podcast. Her only goal in 2022 was the game-winning goal in the SEC championship. So she's got a clutch goal in her when she gets one. So I thought that was like almost a little too perfect, where it was sort of like, yeah, we've got some players who are among the goals, but then when they needed a clutch goal, a really emotionally intense moment, it was the person who also isn't necessarily a massive goal scorer, but has scored a hugely significant goal in the past. So I do wonder about, I know Kimmy said in the press conference she wasn't happy with the shot taking, like how many of them were off target, how many of them didn't actually put their keeper under too much pressure. That wasn't good enough for her, which is great to hear from a coach that they're expecting their players to do better than that. But it's something that we had mentioned in the preseason podcast, that this wasn't necessarily a team with massively proven goal scorers or like massive numbers of goals coming in. So interesting to see how that actually plays out over the course of this season.
Yeah, for me, it gave so many vibes like it was an early round Open Cup game, for the men's team, right? Where clearly the better team, clearly dominating, and it's not coming. It's not coming, and you start to get that wondering, like, is it going to come? And I just, well, obviously I wanted them to win, but also I just did not want for the first game that big a crowd it to be 0-0.
Yeah.
Like that would just. I don't think it would have been the end of the world or anything. But why take that risk, right? Be able to send them home happy rather than run the potential of soccer boring. Nobody scores. Blah blah blah. All that BS that still permeates out there. So I was very glad when the ball finally trickled over the line.
Right. Yeah, no, that was the good part. Okay, I know you was especially happy when when Bree celebrated, like a proper celebration.
Oh my God. I will talk the live long day. I will go on a rant about the lack of decent celebrations in the women's game. Like, it's my biggest pet peeve because, first of all, don't you want a sick pic for your Instagram if you score a goal? Like, it's always the most lame picture. Like, teams like in a group hug. Like, oh my God, get that out of my face. So the fact that they actually, like, she had the presence of mind in that moment to, obviously they all like converged on her. Lauren came sprinting up the entire pitch to celebrate with the team, which also had us all laughing in the press box. But the fact that she had the presence of mind to like turn away from the goal, the subs came sprinting around from where they were warming up to join in the celebration by the corner flag as well. And that great picture, again, it's the picture on the Instagram. Like, that's what happens when you get that moment. You can see the excitement on everyone's face. You can see like the arms out in celebration. You can see her looking at the crowd, like how excited they are, and they're like beating it. So I just thought, like, it gives you that picture perfect moment that allows you to, it's the best marketing you can do for your own team to actually celebrate your accomplishments. So it's really exciting to see the team embrace that, even in such a, like, the fact that the goal came, it was such a late winner. It was the first goal in program history, like all these things. And she still had the presence of mind to turn around, have that big celebration moment that involved, not, obviously it would have been wonderful if Section O / the greenhouse had been involved, but I honestly think it maybe is even more special that it was sort of the rest of the crowd that got that moment. Maybe the people down there will have that memory. That'll be something that brings them back, hoping to, experience that again with the team. So, yeah, I thought it was such a great moment. We were all, I'm so excited that hopefully that sets the standard. Hopefully that's just the beginning of the celebrations we'll see from this team.
Right. Hopefully that's the worst celebration of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
We need more. So yeah, so like Kate, you were saying earlier, like they got a week and a half off, so they definitely got a lot more time to practice. We're also assuming that Jill will be back. Who it was like 5 players missing because of quote unquote finals?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't even seen the full strength version of this team yet, which looks to be a little bit scary. Yeah.
Yes, we are promised. We're promised a stronger squad going forward, which is really cool to hear. To also not have that downplay. Like, I think Kimmy was very honest that like this wasn't her. Like, she wasn't working with the personnel that she is for the rest of the season, and she was obviously. I think none of us have, like, that was an incredible showing for players who maybe they've had to adjust their tactics and they've had to adjust their choices coming into the first game of the season. So like adding the emotion and the pressure to that occasion, and players who maybe didn't expect to play such a role throughout the season stepped up during that first game, put a performance that I think was impressive under the circumstances. And it's really exciting though to still hear in unequivocal terms that we still have some firepower yet to come.
Yeah, and I think it is necessary too, because scrolling through some of the other scores around the league, like, granted, don't know the quality or lack of some of these teams, but some of the teams that you can project would be better. We're putting up 6, 7, 8 goals, on the scrub teams they were playing. So yeah, good first game, but I think the level does need to rise if the Ivy want to hit the levels that I think they want to be at as well. Both in front of goal, and I'm going to be interested to see how the defense plays when they actually get tested in any significant way too, because I don't think we can really say anything meaningful about the defense just because they had nothing to do other than start the attack after goal kicks that were from shots that were so far off target it wasn't even a real shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody else has played yet, so we don't even in the division. So that was the first game of the division. So we don't even know how the other teams are going to come out. Whether the teams that went to the playoffs last year look to be as good as they were. So I'll be. I haven't looked at when all those games kick off. Whether or not that we'll have to wait to the weekend or we'll see midweek. But I'll be watching keenly to see if the Inferno and Eagle and Christos start strong as well.
Yeah, the unknown's exciting, but for our purposes right here, very frustrating because we have no idea.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this team looks in a week and a half and how things come together. It's better to have this week and a half going into it with a win than that mid draw. And also, and once again, shout outs to Coach Cammy. She loves that content, by the way. She loves all the photos, all that stuff. She, shouts out to her for getting her first win as the head coach for the Richmond Ivy and whatnot, which is big for her. And we're looking forward to seeing many more. So
last thing. Cam got called up to Jamaica, didn't she?
Yes.
Yep.
She did.
Which is during
Hey.
So we went over this last week. She can get called up in August and September and beyond. May and June is Richmond time.
I don't even know what she got called up for. I'm trying to think, what do we have coming up? I don't even know.
It doesn't matter if it's going to take her away for minimum 2 games.
Yeah.
And depending on what the travel dates are.
Well, look, by then the Richmond Ivy attack will be going full force, so we'll be good to go. Yeah. So, Kate, would you like to close us out?
Yes, I would. We've got, again, a week and a half until the next game. I will not be at the next game because I, unfortunately, will be at the Chapel Roan concert on Brown Island. I've said it over and over. I'm very disappointed with scheduling the fact that, the biggest concert probably in the city this year was scheduled on the same, or they scheduled one of their home games on the same night as that concert. So I'm hoping it doesn't have a hit on attendance. We're going to have the U12s really show out for that one, the U12s and their parents, because all of us, our 20 will be at Chapel Roan. But I'll be keeping watch, and I'll hopefully we'll get the first-hand takeaways from the rest of the team here after that one, reporting on what, a 4-0 win, 5 win.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that. Matt, anything else for you? Oh, my fault.
Yeah, I mean, catch your breath now because once they come back, it is a sprint. 11 games from May 23rd to June 28th.
Jesus.
So, even that first week back, it's Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, and then another game Saturday, then another game that Wednesday, another game the next Friday, and then they actually get 6 days off.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to talk about this recording schedule because it's about to get hectic.
Yeah, might be a little bit of a double or sometimes triple up scenario.
Yeah, or the good old. We'll talk about everything at once.
Yeah.
Do that
with the video we get away games.
All the young ladies on the team, wrap yourself in bubble wrap because this ain't the time to get hurt.
No, absolutely not. Keep the injury bug over there with the kickers, and hopefully
or send it back on the bus with Winchester.
Yeah, there you go. That's even better. So yeah, so with that being said, for Kate, for Matt, for everyone else, along with River City 93, we just want to say thank you for taking the time of your day for listening to the show. With that being said, make sure you follow us on River City 93. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We are 4 followers away from our goal of 50. We're trying to hit that by July. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe because it helps the algorithm. And we're trying to get paid because this is expensive. Somebody has a car note that's got to start making car payments on. Sucks. But yeah, well, see you guys next time. Be in the next home game. Hopefully, I'll be there. And if you see us, come talk to us. I'll let you guys later. Be easy. Be safe.